Tyll Show After Hours. Mike Tomano is joining us from Chicago.
Grasshopper, call for extension.
Oh, what happened? Dude, you gotta stay on there longer. All right. I'll try one more. Yeah, maybe I'll... All right. You gotta be fast, bro. Hate that. All right. Try again, man. That's what you got to do. Just dial again real fast. Don't even wait. Dial again. I don't want to open up this email over and over. I'm going to email them, tell them to hit me again. Come on, hit me again, man. Yeah, I mean, just let it ring a little bit. The time I got in there, I was trying to hit the one. Yeah. Couldn't have been him. It's probably that 800 service. I mean, how cold it is, but he's freezing his ass off up there. You know, my bad for not getting his phone number to dial him directly. Let me see if that's not. But see, you don't know if it's hooked up to his board. I should have took that number. Because we're sitting around here, you know, just hit redial. When in doubt, hit redial. That's all. I emailed him a couple of times to let him know I was ready. All right. Music is great. I'll tell you that. The green room sounds good. I don't know what he's doing. Just redial, isn't it? It's obvious, right? Hey. All right, I gotta open up the email again to see if he put a number in there. I think he did, actually. I think he did. So we'll see if he answers when we dial him. There he is. What is it? Not finding the connection. Here you go. Okay. All right. Everything is. This whole thing I'm doing on the other computer is a pain in the ass, too. There you go. Something will connect here. Ba-dum, bum, ba-bum. Jesus fucking Christ. That didn't happen. Yes, it did. Whoa. Whoa. Wow. Holy shit. That's it, man. Wow. That could have fucking killed somebody right on the air. Wow. Wow. All right, well, that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Well, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad it happened. These fucking egomaniacs walk around here like they're doing something. Not doing nothing. Not doing nothing. Kids, come on, the kid's on the phone now. Let's get the kid on the phone here. Here we go. This ought to get him.
There we go.
I knew we'd get him.
I knew we'd get you. How are you, Ed Tyll?
I am great, sir. How are you? It's Mike. Am I correct?
That's right, Mike Tomano. I was inspired, influenced, and what an impact you had on me. Ed Tyll, it's so good to hear you still out there kicking ass in the world of, it's not even just talk radio, it's the sharing of ideas that someone like you puts out every day. That I just want to thank you, brother.
Yeah, you know what? Good way to put it. This old formula box of talk radio is really outdated. I mean, it's a total experience with the world. You see what we do every day, right? We grab every network all day, shove it in there, scream and yell, music, bits, characters, all to do one thing, which is keep our listener company, informed, feeling right, and knowing what's going on. They always know what's going on.
Well, you know, it was the winter of 1990. Now, I heard you earlier say that I was a youngster. I was in my 20s. I first heard
What?
you. Yeah, because
Really?
I don't think I was like, there was a time right after AM 1000. I'm just going to give a little history lesson
go ahead,
on
go ahead.
how Ed Tyll hit me.
Yeah.
Winter of 1990. I'm an avid listener of the legendary AM 1000, right?
Right.
Steve Dahl says, hey, coming up, there's this new guy. He's really different. You're really going to dig him. His name is Ed Tyll. I figure I'm going to sit and listen to this guy. And immediately I'm drawn to this articulate, provocative, confident, funny, but eloquent host. And you're talking politics and you're weaving them into pop culture. And as a young, broadcast wannabe, at the time I was at Second City, okay?
Oh, no kidding. Really?
Yeah, and I was doing children's theater, and I wanted to kind of, move into the radio world. So when I heard you, I was like, man, this is kind of exactly what I want to do. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, you don't remember. It's been many, many years. But I had called. You had this producer, and I said, I just want to, if you could just put me on hold, because I couldn't get the station in for some reason.
Right.
And you came back and you said, how long have you been on hold, bro? And I said, I just want to learn from you. And so when you left AM 1000, there was a small period before you had gone to your next gig where you were doing some stuff at this suburban station for this cat, Scott Loftus.
With Scott Loftus, right. 107 something.
107.9, yeah, Y108.
There you go, Y108. Because I drove out to the middle of nowhere where the stick was. We broadcast right under the stick out there.
Yeah, and I got to hang with you, and it was just amazing. I remember you had that apartment in Illinois, and you invited me in, and you were because radio, like any, entertainment industry, when someone's trying to break in, people who are established aren't always really open to letting people just kind of observe them, and you were so open to that and so cool, so thanks again.
Oh, you're welcome, and you're right. When I started out, I was in New York, and everybody was a star. It was just like if you grew up in Chicago, Lou Jack and the whole crowd. Everybody was a demigod. Yeah. So you couldn't really just go to the front door of a station and go, can I watch Dan Ingram or the guys on PLJ when I was a kid, the rock station? There was no way. It didn't happen. Nobody did it. Then, when I was in college, a guy was giving a class who worked at ABC. And part of taking his class was the field trip. and he walked you through these legendary hallways where, you know, the Beatles had their arm around the jocks and stuff. It was an amazing thing. And that was the first look I got of the super big time, number one market, you know, amazing blow-away experience. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, well, you know, and that was the thing. I never had a chance to just sit and watch someone, and you were so cool about that. And, you know, the thing about you is I could never, as I've watched you, you know, your career continue and now evolve, you never took politics as a shill. And I always love that, because anybody with a brain takes things on an issue-to-issue basis, and you're still doing that. So that's what I want to promote to my listeners, to go to edtyll.com, find out what station he's on near you, or just listen to the pod. You're like on all the time. People can always find you, which is great.
They can.
You know?
That's all technology. It's so funny. When I came to the Loop, you'll love this. The way that Stephen, Gary, Johnny, Chet all recorded their show was on Sony Betamax television tape.
Right.
There were 2 Betamaxes stacked up because Steve insisted that was the audio quality. So it became the station standard. And I swear to you, you would wind up with these tons of tape, plastic boxes of tape. It was insane back then. So now the show is in a million places, and there doesn't even have to be a physical copy once it's uploaded someplace.
Right.
That's it, man. That's living.
And it's archived. You know, that's
it.
Beautiful. You know?
It's living. And you know something that's so funny? When I first was syndicated, we used broadcast.com as our logging system. So I have about 3-4 years of shows that are still in broadcast.com archive when it was the newest thing. I was crazy. So we've come a long way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's why, you know, I left after I got into radio about 1992 when I started doing that professionally. And I had stayed at a station until last March, where I was kind of at that point, Ed, and I know of all the people in the industry, you can relate to this. You're tugging at the artistry of it or the corporate side of it, and you just say, you know what?
Right.
And I realized I was 46 years old. I said, you know, I'm just going to do my thing on the internet. I'm going to do my stand-up comedy. I'm going to put my podcast together and just keep going and catch up with this technology, because I couldn't, because radio is just, terrestrial radio is just in so many areas, it's squeezed the entire entertainment side of it out. It's like run like a factory.
You know what it really looks like? I'll tell you the image I get when I just heard you explain that. It looks in my mind like an old junkyard with rusted cars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can see how they were once awesome, but you can see how they got stripped, and then the chrome was taken off, and then, you know, they're barely the skeleton of it. And right, you have made, I think, all the right decisions. That little array there of the podcast, the stand-up, and the choice. This is not an easy choice. It can definitely cost you dough, but the thing is, whatever you get from the choice, you get clean. You don't have to split. You don't have to have Larry Wirt, you know, come down the hallway and tell you that you can't do a bit. You don't have to have a clause in your contract yanked and thrown in your face and go, look, this says what. You avoid all that. Now, you know, the other guys, when they come to you, they say, don't you want to live in this? You saw my apartment, right? That was my second apartment. You should see, you know where the first one was. I lived in Wabash Tower overlooking Michigan, looking at Channel 5. So this was the whole game at the Loop. If you want to play with Jimmy DeCastro and you want to play with Evergreen, and then, you know, Larry really became the hands-on, you were supposed to take these perks and say, look, man, don't forget it's our station. And all the greats have clashed with this, whether it's Steve, Johnny, Howard, you name them. Bob Grant, the late Bob Grant, passed away. You know, I did Grant's show on 9/11.
Yeah.
When America got attacked, I was doing afternoon drive on WABC. Bob was on vacation, and we were having an amazing time. So to me, that's the last memory of genuine, authentic, terrestrial radio as we used to know it. Terrestrial radio is changing now because Part 15 is catching on like wildfire, and it gives you air, but it gives you no FCC meddling. It's a small local Part 15 in the FCC law. But overall, these dinosaurs, the stench of their death is ugly. It is, because communities want radio. They want personalities. They want this experience that you talked about before. They really do. They want it. Industry doesn't give a shit about that. They really don't.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. And what they're trying to do is to squeeze out as much creativity as they can and do it as a cookie cutter. It's like when you go to these beautiful suburbs with forest preserves and everything, and all of a sudden every house looks the same.
Right.
There's no individuality. And that's the way I looked at radio. And it was people like you that inspired me to, because you just nailed it on the head. There comes a point when you get into radio, and I said this many times, whatever entertainment media you get in, you're in this medium and you say, okay, if I ever have to do it like that, I'd rather not do it.
Rather not do it. Right.
You point to the guys reading the liners, but then they come to you and say, well, if you did a little bit of that,
correct,
and you cut your bits down to, instead of 4 minutes, if they could be 2.5 minutes, and we'll give you this. And then you start getting into that, and you lose your soul, because I got into this because I loved it and because it was really a direction for my life. And so maybe it took me 25 years to realize that, but here I am.
Well, Mike, I'm going to tell you something, and the audience, that I don't mention when I talk to students. I just did a graduating bunch of seniors about, 6 weeks ago when the semester started. I don't say this to the young ones, but I do say it to journeymen and people who are out there now. They got the whole gig. You're a full-fledged fighter pilot, so here's the real truth.
Right.
They use your love for it to leverage out of you what they want from you. They know you're hooked on it. They know it's heroin. The minute you walk down the halls of the Loop, it's like getting a shot of heroin. You're like, this is where I want to be. Wow, I'm looking out the 37th floor window. Wow, look at the studio. It looks like a spaceship. This is it. They know. It's like throwing a 5-year-old in FAO Schwartz and not telling him it's a store. just tell him it's his. Just go in there, do what you want to do. We'll see you tomorrow.
Have at it.
Yeah.
Right.
So in the beginning, they say to you, they give you this in the suit. They'll go like this. We're both the same guy. You happen to have the gift of speaking it. I have the gift of selling it. Together, we're unstoppable. And everybody hears it the same way. They go, wow, this guy's going to back me up, and he's going to sell everything based on what I say. This is incredible that he's so in love with what I do. That's what you hear in your head. What they hear in their head is, I told this little fuck it's our radio station, and if he says some shit we don't like, I'm going to squash him like the cockroach he is.
Yeah.
If you watch Shark Tank.
Sad but true.
Yeah. So
let's talk about your political stance, because I've always been drawn to the fact that you will take an issue-to-issue approach. And there had to be a time in your storied career, Ed, where someone came up to you and said, listen to Limbaugh. He's always going to toe the Republican line. Or listen to, I'm trying to think of a successful liberal talk show host, but can you just be one thing or the other? There had to be a point where they wanted you to kind of toe a line and give up the reality of who you are to be more of an image of what they wanted you to be.
Sure. So you want an example? All right, a real life drama. This will be a big one, easy to follow. It happened at the Loop. It was covered in the Tribune. Louis Farrakhan is extremely, 20 years ago, always incendiary. I mean, he was just a bomb-throwing, flame-throwing, crazy guest. I was filling in for Kevin, so it meant I was on at 10 o'clock in the morning, and nobody puts Louis Farrakhan on at 10 o'clock in the morning. I mean, you can put him on 11 o'clock at night, half the world is asleep. For the truckers who can dig it. But you're putting this on when, mothers and kids and this and that, offices. So I did it. And during the show, the phones are going off the hook. He's being himself. Greg comes in, sulk, and he goes, this is really getting crazy outside. I said, what are you talking? There's a protest outside the Hancock building. I said, no kidding. He goes, yeah, half of them want you thrown off the air for having this guy on. The other half it supports you, so it's a big argument. He goes, I don't know what we're going to do, but keep it going. I said, all right, I got it. So the show finishes. Now Greg is gone. Larry comes in. He goes, all right, look, good show, but we got to get you out of this building. We can't have an incident. I said, an incident of what? He goes, these people want to fucking kill you. He goes, they've been out there for over an hour screaming to get rid of it. He goes, we're taking you out the residential side of the Hancock. So we had to go down and up and down and go at the back of the building. And Larry like shoves me into a town car. He just, get in there. He goes, and stay home and don't answer the phone. So the next day, my agent has to come in. There's a big meeting and says, what are you trying to do? I said, radio? He says, well, you almost destroyed the radio station yesterday. I said, I did. He goes, yeah, we don't want any more of that. I said, well, I guess there won't be any more of me. And then my agent's like, I come. So for an hour and a half, it was push come to shove. And what do you think happened? You think I kept my $350,000? Of course. What do you think? And then I said, but guess what you do know? Then you know. Well, the clock is ticking now. Now you got to start looking, because they know that you know that they know that you know. Everybody knows what's up. You're flat out when you're arguing, so they know what you think. They know you're not going to go in there and be perfectly behaved. They know that for right now, you've agreed. You know, you've heard these things a million times on the air. The guy says, I don't want to talk about it anymore. The guy's in the hallway going, don't talk anymore about it. That's it. Move on to a different. So that's what you do. You have to cover your ass and make sure you're going to be okay, but you can't give in. You cannot just roll over for them. Once you make one of these agreements, it's got to be like, now we don't talk at the soda machine. You know what I mean? You bumped my car. You know, you're on my property now. So, it's very uneasy. But it's what you originally said. The corporation, by definition, can't do this. No corporation is going to have any art on the air. What do you think they care? They really don't care.
No. And, it's funny you mentioned it's hard to bite your tongue when you've done your whole career being honest and open and forthright with your listeners. I remember being sued by Mancow because I was some kid in a cornfield radio station trying to make a name and get to Chicago.
You got
and I remember the people that owned this radio station, and that it was a blue cinder block building in the middle of 200 acres of corn. And this was when Mancow was big in Chicago, and I thought, well, he was the guy to go after. Mm-hmm. And he was an easy target,
Right.
And they said, well, we just got a lawsuit, a cease and desist. And, those flew around like paper airplanes back in the 80s.
That's right.
And I said, okay, yeah, well, so what are we doing? Well, you just absolutely cannot talk about this.
Right. The rollover, the complete surrender it all, all hands up. Everybody
but I had to talk about it. It was just part of who I was.
Well, see,
I want you. Yeah,
I was just going to say there's other. See, that was a story where it was a Chicago story. So there are other stories where, after you have this détente, it's like Nixon and China back in the old days. You have this détente with them. Then comes the backlash. So now I'll tell you a backlash story.
Okay.
We're on a station which is very much like The Loop. It's an FM talker. It's in a market where this has never been done before, and it's opening with Howard for the first 5 hours of the morning show. Then I come on. So that's the personality of the station. So they went through a couple of program directors, no doubt, right? So this new guy comes in. He's from Milwaukee, and he's just prim and proper. And we're all shocked that he would get this job. But he somehow must have talked them into that he's really wide open, but he looks out of place. So second day, he says to me, look, I need you to really tighten it up on who you're going after. I'd like you to let me know who's going to get attacked on the station. I said, well, I don't know, Jack. Until I'm out there, I have no idea. He says, well, that's not going to work. So I go in. And I go, we're under a new regime now. I said, this idiot down the hall, da-da-da. So I go on for half an hour. He comes screaming into the studio. The backlash of me going after him, he was upset for 6 months and he quit. He quit the company. Couldn't live with me after that. One thrashing. But it was his fault. I mean, he must have been out of his mind, but he went in all in, and I went in all in, and it's very uncomfortable. So it goes both ways. It is not always that if you got the new guy, you can push the new guy around a little bit. You know, you're why they're listening. They're not listening for who the program director is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about exchanging ideas with people, this day and age, and it's more so now in the era of Obama, you know, with such division amongst conservatives and liberals or whatever in the White House. You recently did a show on Islamic jihad that just made me sore. I was like, oh, this is so perfect. It's a real discussion. And you did something that no one else does, where they actually bring on someone and tell them, you don't have to tell us about the Quran, or you don't have to tell us about Islam. You have to tell us how we're not seeing what you happen to be seeing. And if it says to kill the Jew, or it says to kill the Christian, or it says that you decide if someone is worthy of being killed, explain it. Boy, it was perfect radio.
Wasn't that riveting? Wonderful. I mean, I'm telling you, now you just put your finger on it. That's my proudest show maybe in the last couple of years. This guy came to us a couple of years ago and is so outspoken, this IQ al-Rasuli fella, and he lives in Europe, and he's from Iraq, but he is such a good student. He's like one of these college professors who's heads and shoulders above the rest of the faculty. He can write books about it. He can speak anywhere in the world. So this guy says, go ahead and find one. It took me a year to find this Dr. Navik. Now, Dr. Navik had no idea what he was in for with IQ al-Rasuli, because al-Rasuli's ready to take the hills right now. Let's go get ISIS, by lunchtime. This guy comes on and says he's a born-again Islam. So I'm like, wow, that's great. Tell me more. So we go. Now, I said, well, I just want to be clear. You see love. He goes, I see love. I said, you see the Christians and the Islam hand in hand. Absolutely, the best of friends. I said, so jihad, I said, I read the definition. He goes, yes, correct definition. I said, so you must renounce this, right? He goes, oh, no, I can't renounce that. I said, well, now, what are you trying to say? How is anybody going to think you're any different than Mohammed Atta, or whichever one you want to pick out, if you say you can't renounce this? What religion has holy war in it? Now, you going to have Christians having a holy war today in this day and age? I don't think so. You go down and get to the Cardinal Egan's office. I don't think he's going to authorize a fatwa for you. Cardinal, I would like a fatwa against my neighbor. He's an asshole. Can you get me a fatwa against my... He'll say, no, we're Christians. Go love your neighbor. Go say hello to your neighbor. Yeah. So this idea that he would not renounce jihad, I thought was outstanding. I said, well, there's your problem. Now we've gotten to the problem. Now we know where the surgery goes. Now we know where we need the surgery. Right. Good for you. Good listening.
I was riveted, because I've had that argument so many times where people, and the dismissal comes from, if you bring up, this whole Islam, like Bill Maher brought it up, so wonderfully, that maybe it's time for them to look at the religion as a whole and maybe kind of look for a reformation of some sort. But it's so divided into so many different sects.
Now, isn't that brilliant?
The Crusades,
But isn't that suggestion brilliant? Where is the modern reform Islamic mosque? The clothing's optional, the language is optional. We do just what happened with Christianity. Take out the ghosts, take out the scary things flying around, bring in the daylight, and let's get with the love of mankind, which is supposed to be the purpose, to have a religion. You don't have a religion to be at war. You have a religion to love mankind. Yeah. So that's where they give you the Ralph Cramden answer. Humana. Yeah,
right.
Humana.
Well, they bring up the Crusades, and the thing is, whenever someone, and you pointed this out, and we have to point it out. Yes, there's people who, there's a lot of right-wingers who use Christianity as a symbol of America, and that gets kind of weird and bizarre to me. And there's people who use Christianity to judge people because they cherry-pick stuff out of Leviticus, and I have a problem with that. But overall, you cannot kill someone and say, I did it because Jesus wants me to do that, because it's in direct conflict with his teachings. You can, however, do that with the Quran. And I think you pointed that out, and people don't have the balls to do that anymore, you know?
Here's the thing, right? You get your Catholic or your Christian tradition, and you got your Old Testament. Old Testament, everybody's on fire. Everybody is getting zapped. Sodom and Gomorrah turns to salt. You know, the whole thing is crazy. What happens? He says, hey, no more of that. Two things, boom, boom. This is House of Cards. If it's in House of Cards, it must be true. The guy says to Kevin Spacey, there's only two things. Love him, love everybody else. You're done.
Yeah.
No big explanations here. And anything that doesn't fit those two is wrong.
You're out of line. Exactly.
Out of line. You're out of line.
By the way, I heard you talking about House of Cards today. I'm trying not to binge watch, so I'm watching it like one every couple of days. And are you and I don't want to give spoilers away. I don't know how far you are in this, but are you kind of seeing more and more of a direct link to the current administration tale with the script writing this season?
Well, it's interesting. I thought we touched on it today. Maybe you heard the use of the executive order and the recess appointment were brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. It is so Clinton-esque to get what you want by skirting the intention of it and then getting it anyway, that when you see that episode and she's got the job, you're like, oh my God, this is just like them. Just like them. So yeah, I do. I love the show. I do see the current, what I see in Barack Obama does not hate everything about the Clintons. This is a misnomer. He's learned plenty from the Clintons. He just doesn't want to do it with the Clintons. He wants to throw his curveball on a different pitching staff. You see what I mean? He likes the curveball. He just doesn't want to play baseball with them. So, yeah, he's got plenty up his sleeve. But his recess appointment and their recess appointment were awesome. And the only thing you don't have is Claire is not Michelle. You know what I mean? Like it's really Hillary's story. It's not a Michelle story. I would love it if Michelle was all over the place now, trying to become an ambassador. If she went and became senator from Illinois, just like Hillary, that would be a hoot and a holler. But I love the show. I mean, Spacey's great. The writing is right up there with West Wing. I loved West Wing. I still love an old episode of West Wing every once in a while. But this is like the West Wing on ecstasy. Like he's making out with his security guard last season. It was outstanding. I saw that with a woman. I'm watching that with a girl. And she's like, oh, my God. I'm like, hey, come here, Claire. What's up?
How crazy is, yeah. And how great is Robin Wright Penn? Or no, she's not Penn anymore. She got rid of.
She's not Penn anymore. Hey, what Robin about his comment? Let's talk about him at the Oscars.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that I was looking at. So he says about this director, who gave this son of a bitch his green card. Ed, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. You're a New Yorker. If we have a Hispanic friend or an Italian friend, or everybody busts balls, and they made this into such a shitstorm, I was like, how have we lost complete all of our sense of humor? I mean, what's the deal?
Well, here it is. They know each other for years.
Yeah.
So the first thing the director says, he goes, oh, I know Sean many years. This is the way he and I are very brutal in our humor. And I was like, I love this guy. Then, Sean Penn, he's not even going to dignify this thing. He's drunk. What do you think? He cares. He's got some new young chick. He's having sex in his limousine for all he cares. But what I liked about it was this needs to be allowed. You can't take away from me how I tease my friends.
Right.
Maybe,
right on.
Right. You can't tell me how to talk to my friends. Maybe you can tell me how to talk to a stranger because you have a camera and I don't, and you got it out first and it's gotcha. But not somebody I know for many, many years. So I thought it was brilliant that he did it because it is an old joke. It isn't a new joke directed at that guy. It's an old joke. People always say, in my neighborhood, it was the Bronx, right? So we not only had nationalities, but we always had Puerto Ricans moving in. And everybody was like, oh, here we go, more Puerto Ricans. So no matter what you were in my neighborhood, if you were new, people go, oh, here we go, more Puerto Ricans. And the guy go, I'm not Puerto Rican. And it was a joke. Too much.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a Mexican neighborhood on
There
the
you
south
go.
side of Chicago, and the two groups that were always ripped on were Italians and Irish, and I happen to be Italian and Irish. So, I just
There you
had
go. You were double cursed.
the
And
double whammy.
I say all the time, one of the funniest expressions out of my early youth, early 60s. Somebody said, "Are you white?" And I go, "Sure, I'm white." He goes, "No, you're not." He goes, "You're Italian." That was his proof. His proof that I wasn't white was that he knew I was Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, so I had to go home and have this whole big discussion. My mother said, "Well, years ago, this is what they used to say," but she says, "Don't."
Right.
She goes, "For your purposes, you're white." She says to me, when I
yeah.
said, "Yeah, for my purposes of argument in the street." Yeah, right. Everybody, and then the Irish too.
Well, I was Sicilian, so the Italians would
forget
call
it.
us the N-word. And that
Forget
was
it.
that was
That's
it.
right. That's right. You were the dark-skinned Italians, the hairy apes, right? The more
Right.
brutal mafia types, right? Of course, every stereotype.
Yeah, our receding hairline was in the middle of our back. That was, that's how you knew you were
Exactly.
becoming a man.
Exactly right. Controlling controlling the ports, getting all your
Yeah, right.
There's all your cash from the ports that you collected from the stevedores.
Yeah, you were born into the Teamsters.
Right.
And it was crazy.
Hey, I got to ask you, how's the Polish Catholic Union doing over there? When I used to leave the city and drive out to the suburbs, the Polish
Oh,
Catholic
yeah.
Union is still standing as a beautiful building. Is it still there?
You know what? I don't know.
We'll
I
have to
will
look
check
into
that out
We have to
and
look
make sure I
look
get
into
back
it.
to you.
Make sure nothing happens to that building. My father was very impressed.
Yeah.
My father's Polish at the time when he was alive, and now he's not anything. But at the time he was Polish, and we drive by, and he goes, "That's pretty good." I said, "What do you think goes on in there?" "It's pretty good. They got a union in there." I said, "A union of what? A bunch of Polish people talking to each other, dobranoc, saying goodnight in Polish?" Yeah.
Pictures of the Pope. Yeah, that was it.
That was it. Oh my God! Whenever the Pope shows up and he's your guy, like I have an Italian family like yours, so the Pope goes to Yankee Stadium. Oh my God! Oh, we have to. Oh, do you know what this? They go insane. Yeah, it's great. I think that this whole thing with the Pope is a great gig. It's a great gig to be Pope, man. Yeah. Hey, what is he now? He's Venezuelan? What is he? He's Colombian?
Is he Colombian? Pope Francis?
He's
I don't
something.
know. I know he's modernizing a lot of the Catholic Church.
He's
which is
something
nice.
down there. He's not Peruvian. That would stand out too much. But he's something from down there.
He might be Puerto Rican.
Well, where was
He's from your old neighborhood.
Hugo Chavez? Hugo Chavez was where?
Yeah, Venezuela.
That's it. I think that's his. I think mostly if it's not Mexico, it's Venezuela. When you got to guess, it's
And isn't didn't Barack Obama just cherry pick that as our that's a national threat they've decided.
Oh,
Did you-
Cuba?
did you
now
see
you're talking
this
about
today?
Cuba? No,
Here,
tell
let me pull this up. You
Tell
got a
me.
minute?
Yeah, go. Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Because we're talking about Ed Tyll, and I got to spend as much time as I can with you because, man, you set the pace for my career. I want to thank you again. Did I thank you yet? I think I did a couple times.
A few times. You're on the
That's good.
record as being appreciative.
Very good. So here
this
we
is-
go.
yeah,
So
tell me. Yeah. What do you got?
Obama declares Venezuela a threat to U.S. national security. And it just seems to me we definitely cherry pick what human rights violations we allow to get our national panties in a bundle, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, this puts the Pope in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, it sounds like look, here's the problem with poor Barack Obama now. Now he's really lost. So Venezuela, no one is given a care to. What did he hang this on? Oil or currency? What is his big worry? Can you see
They
it?
said they're declaring a national security threat, the first step in starting sanctions, and of course we don't, now this has to mess up his stuff with Cuba, doesn't it? And you're much more eloquent with this stuff than I am articulate, but he said he's concerned by the Venezuelan government's efforts to escalate intimidation of its political opponents.
Oh, here we go. I
and-
see it. I got you. I'm following.
Violations of human rights. I mean, come on.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. This is what he's into. This is what he thinks is a national security threat. Washington targets 7 officials. See, now I'm going to give you a quick backgrounder here. When you were not even born, and I was a little kid, we used to go around the world, find a country, and say, This guy's no good. That guy's no good. That guy's no good. Get rid of these people in your government. We'll give you U.S. contracts. We'll give you U.S. protection. We'll give you what you want. Oh, okay. Whoosh, they're out. Our guys are in the CIA. Now listen to this. I'm going to read it to you. Barack Obama issued an executive order declaring Venezuela a national security threat and put sanctions on 7 officials. He wants these guys thrown out of the Venezuelan government. If they do this and turn these guys into criminals, and Barack Obama is happy, then the White House said they will restore regular relations. Now, is that a shakedown? In plain English,
saying, I don't like these guys. Get rid of them.
Can't you get rid of the guys we don't like? So we want you. Now, let's just picture Benjamin Netanyahu would like to speak about Israel. Barack Obama has a cow. But Barack Obama wants to tell Venezuela, could you get rid of 7 guys? We want these 7 guys out of your... You know,
it's all big business. You know, it's amazing.
It's all principle-free decision-making. Not one principle involved in any of this. It's all pragmatic. This is what I want. Why? You know, there's an expression I hate, and Barack Obama's generation is raised on it. Your generation knows this. They say, you don't get if you don't ask. Mm-hmm. You don't get if you don't. And you go, what are you getting? Well, I got to get what I deserve. Oh, really? What do you exactly deserve? Well, I deserve health care, and I deserve a tax break, and I deserve... You do, huh? I deserve excellent public schools, and you deserve all this, do you? Good, because I thought all this stuff had to be earned and, cherished. Yeah, it deserved. Anyway, I'm filibustering. Go ahead. What's next on your list?
The next list, well, since we're talking about Barack Obama and the recent Netanyahu speech...
Yes.
Here's the thing that I find with a lot of really intelligent people that I talk to from the progressive left side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They seem to be putting this great hope in the westernization of the Iranian youth, you know, and their collective mindset. And I'm still saying, I don't know, we got to be a little bit more pragmatic than that. And I'm going to side with Netanyahu's view, you know. I just think it's too much at hand of a threat for us.
Well, they're not mutually exclusive, so you should have both in the mix. From what I gathered, this guy was reporting the other day from the hallway of these talks with the Iranians in Montreux, Switzerland, for the New York Times, David Sanger. And he was telling Charlie Rose over the satellite, he goes, I'm standing right here. This is what they're saying. And here's what it comes down to. Certainly, John McCain, Republicans, they want to go with Netanyahu. It's too big a risk. If you give them an industry, now you've got to micromanage them that they don't start a bomb thing on the sly. Who wouldn't? I mean, would they be good Iranians if they didn't build a bomb? Come on, man. Let's grow up. Okay, if you live in Iran, I don't care how peaceful and how many jeans you buy from American stores. You want that bomb so nobody blows up your country. And you get to call the shots on other people because you have that bomb. So this doesn't sound smart to Republicans. The left says you got to accept the fact that a progressive society like Iran is going to have this science. The only hope you have is inspection. Well, it's kind of, that's a very fatalistic view then. You're telling me I got no cards. I got to hope the other guy plays his hand. Oh, no, we'll have inspections. What happened with inspections in North Korea? We inspected North Korea and they set off a bomb anyway. During our inspections, they set off a bomb. Okay.
Right.
So you don't have perfect inspection in a foreign, hostile country. Period.
Yes.
Okay. So there's your answer.
Hostile, and based on the fact that they've already stated, let's wipe Israel off the map.
Now, these young ones that your friends are banking on, you can bank on them, but they're not mature yet. They haven't. What you need Rouhani, one way or the other, to stick. If Rouhani gets kicked out, then you are going to have a backlash, and you're going to have Argo, the sequel. You're going to have Ben Affleck sneaking people out of there again, just like in 1979. So to think that ISIS doesn't have sympathizers inside of Iran. You know, we're against ISIS, and there's ISIS sympathizers in how many states now? You get a look at that map last week, how many kids around? Okay, so what do you think goes on in Iran? For as much as Iran hates ISIS and their military is fighting it, you think there's no sympathizers inside a country as big as Iran who intellectually have the same self-loathing that these American kids do? Of course. It's automatic. Right. So you're fighting a lot bigger, more complicated than you think you are. I believe President Obama is wishful. He should be, but he doesn't rule hard enough. When they think that Americans are sentimental, they play us every time.
Every time.
If they think that we're getting wistful about walking hand in hand with the Iranians in the future, the Iranians would say, we have a duty to protect ourselves against this superpower. They're going soft on us. We're going to have to harden up on them. It would be, anything less would be, you know what I mean, ridiculous to assume. Come on. Mm-hmm. Come on. Yeah. So that's what I think is really going on there. I think that they are going to get an industry. I think that we're going to have inspections, and then I think you better hold your breath that they don't test a weapon one day. Because the day they test a weapon, the game is over. Then Israel's really got to go on DEFCON. Then you can't have a phone call with Barack Obama every 2 seconds in Israel. Israel's going to start acting unilaterally.
Yeah,
that's my prediction. If you really get a bad deal in Iran, he's got to back it up. If he just yells at Iran, Netanyahu, and he doesn't do anything, what do you think Iran's going to do? Then they're obligated to prey on his weakness. I mean, this is still... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we also have on our own soil, we have these, 47 senators now sending a message to Iran saying whatever deal Obama's given you, that's gone once he's out of office. Well, that's just further weakening, this insane divisiveness in the Fed.
See, the bad news is that the counterbalance to Barack Obama is not steady either. Mm-hmm. Both sides are wobbly. There's no discipline on the right. If you have that card to play, 47 guys are willing to sign on, you don't use it in public. You use it in the hallway of the White House, and you say, look, don't make me put this on the news. Let's not use this. That's what Frank Underwood would do. Frank Underwood is a brilliant guy, man, in that show. He always looks for a way to get something done, evil or not. He threw that poor girl in front of the subway. He was my hero. He's my hero. You know how many people I've wanted to throw in front of a subway? I've never done it.
He's taking care of business, right?
He was